It was a cold, quiet night when Oliver, a small tabby cat with big, bright eyes, found himself all alone. He had been lost for weeks now, wandering through strange streets, seeking any familiar scent, any trace of home. His little heart ached as he remembered the warmth of his family's embrace, the sound of his young owner, Mia, calling his name. Oliver was no ordinary cat. He had a bond with Mia that no one could understand. From the moment he was a kitten, he had been her constant companion, always by her side. But one fateful day, during a family move to a new city, Oliver had gotten separated from them in the rush. No one knew where he had gone. Every day since that day, Oliver had searched tirelessly for his family. He had crossed busy streets, hidden in alleyways, and braved the unknown world outside the home he once knew. With each step, his body grew weaker, but his determination only grew stronger. The love he had for Mia kept him going, even when it seemed like there was no hope left. One evening, after another long day of searching, Oliver paused at the edge of a small town. He looked up at the sky, feeling a familiar pull deep inside him. His instincts whispered, "They're close. I have to. Keep going." So, with a steady breath, he took the first step toward the unknown, a journey of 500 miles. Oliver's paws were sore, his fur matted and dirty from the long journey. The town ahead seemed so quiet, almost too still. The air was thick with the scent of earth and night. He could hear the soft rustle of leaves in the trees, but everything else felt far away, as though the world had stopped for a moment just for him. He took another step, his muscles aching every movement. He paused, sensing something. Was the breeze? A sound in the distance? Or maybe it was just his tired mind playing tricks on him. But then he heard it, faint at first, a soft rustling from the shadows under a nearby porch. Curious, Oliver's ears perked up. He slowly crept forward, his heart racing. His tail flicked nervously behind him, a sign of uncertainty. What if it was danger? What if he wasn't strong enough to face it? But something deep inside him told him to move closer, to take the chance. The sound grew louder as he neared the porch. And then, just as he reached the edge of the darkness, he saw Ita's small, thin figure huddled against the wall. It was a cat, its fur patchy and covered in dirt, its eyes wide with fear. The poor creature was trembling, its sides rising and falling quickly with shallow breaths. Oliver's heart clenched at the sight. He could see the fear in the cat's eyes, and a deep sadness washed over him. He knew what it felt like to be lost, to be scared, to wonder if anyone would ever come for you. He wanted to help, but a part of him hesitated. Was this cat like him? Lost? Wandering? Desperate? Or was it just too far gone, too broken to be helped? He took a step closer, his instinct guiding him now. As he got near, the cat froze, staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. For a moment, the two cats simply stood there, locked in a silent understanding. Oliver felt a deep connection to this creature, another soul just like him, struggling in a world full of uncertainty. But then, the other cat's body trembled even more. It let out a weak meow, its voice barely audible. The sadness in the sound made Oliver's chest tighten. Without thinking, he moved closer, nuzzling the trembling cat gently with his nose. The other cat flinched at first, but then, slowly, it relaxed, leaning into Oliver's touch. A rush of emotions flooded Oliver's heart. He didn't know why, but he felt a sense of duty to this cat. He had been lost for so long, searching for something, for someone to care, to bring him back home. And now, standing there in the quiet night, Oliver realized he wasn't alone anymore. Maybe he couldn't bring this cat home, but he could offer comfort, he could offer hope. Oliver sat down beside the scared cat, his body aching but his heart full. The journey wasn't over yet, but this moment, this connection, it felt important. The world may have seemed big and cruel, but in this small, quiet space, there was kindness, and that was enough to keep going. The cat began to purr softly, a sound of trust, and as Oliver watched the stars above, he knew that the bond between them would lead them both to something better. The small cat, now safe beside Oliver, slowly relaxed against him. For the first time in what felt like forever, the shaking stopped, and the quiet purring started again. Oliver stayed by the cat's side, offering comfort in the only way he knew how, being present. But as the minutes passed, doubts began to creep into his mind. What now? Oliver wondered. Can I really take care of another cat? The thought weighed heavily on him. He hadn't planned for this. He had been so focused on finding his family, on his own journey, that he hadn't thought about what would come after. But he couldn't leave the cat alone in the night. He had to do something. So, with a deep breath, he gently nudged the smaller cat with his nose, coaxing it to move. The cat didn't resist, but it didn't seem ready to follow Oliver either. It seemed almost afraid, as if everything had been too much for it. Oliver stood up slowly, looking around. The street lights cast long shadows across the pavement. World felt colder, lonelier. He had to make a decision. He couldn't stay out here forever. He could bring the cat to a safe place. Maybe find someone who could help. But how could he manage this alone? He didn't have a home, not yet. And even if he did, the cat needed more than just a safe place. It needed care, food, and warmth. He didn't have those things. But there was no turning back. He knew that deep in his heart. He couldn't leave this creature behind, not after everything they had both been through. He carefully picked up the smaller cat, who tensed in his arms at first, but soon relaxed as Oliver's warmth seemed to comfort it. As he walked toward the nearest building, he realized just how far he had come. He had no plan, no money, and no idea what he was going to do next. But he had made a promise, in that moment of connection, to care for this cat the way he would want to be cared for. The walk to the small shelter was long. It wasn't much, just a quiet building with a few empty rooms, but was the best Oliver could do for now. When they arrived, Oliver gently set the cat down on the floor inside, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle on his shoulders. He looked at the small creature. The cat seemed confused and scared, huddling in a corner, too frightened to eat. Oliver's heart sank. Is this the right choice? He asked himself again. Am I just making everything worse? He had nothing to give this cat, no food, no toys, no comforts. The little creature stared up at him, its wide eyes full of fear. It seemed to be wondering if it could trust him. The trust had to start somewhere, but Oliver wasn't sure where. For the next few days, Oliver tried everything he could to comfort the scared cat. He tried feeding it, but the small creature refused to eat, even when the food was right in front of it. It would only hide, retreating into a dark corner whenever Oliver tried to approach. Oliver's own hunger grew as the days went on, but he couldn't leave the cat alone. At night, when the silence seemed to stretch on forever, Oliver couldn't help but feel a deep sense of doubt. Am I failing this cat? He thought. Should I have left it? Should I have just kept going on my journey to find Mia? The questions gnawed at him. He felt guilty, unsure of his choices, but something inside him kept him going. He couldn't just turn away now. He had made a promise. On the fourth day, as Oliver sat quietly, watching the cat from a distance, something changed. The small cat slowly, almost cautiously, moved toward the food dish. Its movements were careful, like it wasn't sure whether it was allowed to take the food. Oliver stayed still, watching with a mixture of hope and nervousness. The cat sniffed at the food, hesitating for a moment. Then, with a soft mew, it took a tiny bite. Oliver's heart skipped a beat. It's eating, he thought. It's trusting me. The cat ate slowly, one small bite at a time, as if it were unsure whether it was safe. Oliver moved a little closer, still not wanting to scare the animal. It glanced up at him, their eyes meeting for the first time in a long while. And in that moment, Oliver saw it, the faintest flicker of trust. The cat wasn't as afraid anymore. It had taken the first step. The next day, things slowly began to improve. The cat ate a little more, though still with hesitation, but it wasn't as scared as before. Oliver continued to sit by its side, offering food, comfort, and his quiet presence. They had both been through so much, and their bond was growing, even if it was still fragile. One morning, as Oliver gently stroked the cat's back, the cat let out a soft, almost imperceptible purr. Oliver froze for a moment, his breath catching his throat. "It's a sign," he thought. "This is the beginning." It was a small gesture, a small step, but it meant everything. It meant the cat was starting to trust him. And for the first time in days, Oliver felt a little spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this journey wouldn't be as lonely as he had feared. He wasn't alone anymore, and the small creature beside him wasn't alone either. The road ahead was still uncertain, filled with challenges and doubts, but Oliver knew with every step that they would face them together, and that was enough to keep moving forward. Oliver and the cat's bond grew stronger with each passing day. The little creature began to trust him more, slowly coming out of its hiding spots when Oliver entered the room. It would nuzzle his hand gently and even let him stroke its fur. The cat still didn't speak, but there was a soft purr whenever Oliver was near, and that made him smile every time. One afternoon, after weeks of caring for the cat, Oliver decided to take it outside for a short walk. The weather had warmed, and he thought a change of scenery might help both of them. He carefully placed the cat in a soft carrier, making sure it was comfortable, and they stepped outside. The sun shone bright, the air fresh and crisp. As they walked down the street, something caught Oliver's eye. A small park sat on the corner, with benches and trees lining the path. It looked peaceful, a place to relax and reflect. But as soon as the cat saw the park, it froze. It went completely still, its eyes wide, and its body stiffened. Oliver immediately stopped walking, sensing something was wrong. The cat began to struggle in its carrier, trying to escape. It made a soft, anxious meow, its tail flicking back and forth quickly. Oliver opened the carrier, worried. The cat darted out and ran toward the park with such speed that Oliver could barely keep up. "Hey, wait!" Oliver called, but the cat didn't stop. It ran straight into the park, weaving through the trees, its eyes fixed on something in the distance. Oliver followed, confused but concerned. The cat led him toward a small patch of grass, where it suddenly stopped in front of a large tree. It stood still for a moment, staring up at the tree with a look of recognition in its eyes. Then, with a soft cry, the cat pawed at the ground beneath the tree, as if digging at something. Oliver's heart began to race. "What is it?" he thought. "Why does it know this place?" He knelt down next to the cat, trying to understand what was happening. He watched as the cat scratched at the earth, its movements frantic. Then something shiny caught Oliver's eye, a small metal tag, partially buried in the dirt. With trembling hands, Oliver reached down and pulled it out. It was a faded collar tag. He wiped the dirt away, and the words became clearer. Mia, 217 Oak Street. The name was unmistakable. Mia was the name of his young owner. This cat, it's hers, Oliver realized. Tears filled his eyes as he looked at the tag. It wasn't just any cat, this was Mia's cat, the one he had been searching for all this time. The realization hit him like a wave. The cat hadn't just been lost, it had been searching too. It had been trying to find its way home back to Mia. The cat, now calmer, sat beside him and looked up at the tree. It mewed softly, as if understanding the significance of the moment. Oliver's heart ached as he watched the cat, remembering his own long search, the loneliness, and the hope that had kept him going. A sudden thought struck him. Could Mia still be nearby? He felt a rush of excitement and fear. He knew he had to act quickly. "I'm going to take you home," Oliver whispered to the cat, his voice filled with determination. "We'll find Mia. We'll bring you back to her." But as he stood up, ready to return to the shelter and figure out what to do next, A wave of emotion washed over him. He wasn't just saving this cat, he was finding a way to heal something inside himself. For so long, Oliver had been searching for his own place, for the connection he had lost. But now, standing here with the cat, this cat that had been lost and found just like him, he realized that the rescue wasn't just about bringing the cat home. It was about finding his own way back, too. As they walked together toward the street, Oliver felt a new sense of purpose. Maybe, just maybe, this was all part of a bigger plan. He had found the cat, and now it was time to bring it home. But in the process, he was also finding his own healing, his own way back to the love he had once known. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Oliver didn't feel so alone. The cat had been searching for something, and so had he. And now they were both on the path to find what they had lost. Oliver's heart raced as he and the cat made their way through the streets. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows over the quiet neighborhood. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were getting closer to finding Mia. But with every step, something inside him tightened. What if Mia wasn't here anymore? What if he had arrived too late? The small cat walked beside him, its body a little lighter than before, as if it too knew that something important was about to happen. They reached a familiar street, the one with the row of tall oak trees lining the sidewalk. It felt like the right place, the place where Mia's house should be. But as they turned the corner, everything changed. A loud screech of tires filled the air. Oliver spun around just in time to see a car racing down the street. The driver didn't seem to notice the cat at his feet, and before Oliver could react, the car sped past them, barely missing the small animal. The cat, startled by the sound, darted into the street, its eyes wide with fear. In a flash, it was gone, running toward the other side, unaware of the danger. "No!" Oliver shouted, running after the cat. His heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't lose it. Now, not when they were so close. Not after everything they had been through together. He reached the curb just in time to see the cat freeze in the middle of the road, looking confused and scared. Another car was coming. Oliver's mind raced. He had to do something. There was no time to think. His body moved before his brain could catch up. With every ounce of strength, he lunged toward the cat, grabbing it just as the car approached. The vehicle screeched to a halt, the driver's face full of panic. Oliver pulled the cat back onto the sidewalk, breathing heavily, his arms trembling. He could feel the cat's heart racing in his hands, its small body pressed against his chest. For a long moment they just stood there, the world quiet around them. The car drove away, the sound of its engine fading into the distance. Oliver looked down at the cat, who was still shaking. Its wide eyes locked onto his. It seemed to understand just how close it had come to danger. Tears welled up in Oliver's eyes. "I almost lost you," he thought, his voice shaking. "I can't let anything happen to you. I promised you I'd take care of you." He held the cat even tighter, feeling the bond between them deepen in that moment of fear. The cat's body finally relaxed, and it nudged Oliver's hand, its soft purring a quiet sign of trust. They had been through so much, and yet here they were, still together. But the moment wasn't over. Oliver knew the journey was still far from complete. He had to find Mia. They had come too far to stop now. And with the cat safely in his arms, he made a promise to himself. No matter what, he would never let anything separate them again. The tension that had gripped him only moments ago began to melt away. His fear had been replaced with something stronger, determination. He wasn't alone anymore. He had the cat by his side, and together they would find their way home. As they continued down the street, the evening air now calm and peaceful, Oliver felt the weight of everything they had been through and everything they had yet to face. But he also knew that, no matter what happened next, they would face it together, and that was all that mattered. As Oliver and the cat walked side by side, the city's fading lights cast long shadows on the path ahead. The fear that had gripped him moments ago began to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of hope. The journey wasn't over, but Oliver knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. No longer just two lost souls in a vast world, they had become something more, a family bound by love, trust, second chances. When they finally reached the familiar house on Oak Street, Oliver stopped at the gate, holding the cat close. The moment felt surreal. Could Mia be inside? Was she waiting? His heart pounded as he looked at the door, but something inside told him that he wasn't just bringing the cat home. He was healing too. Just as he began to walk away, uncertain, the door opened. A woman stepped out, her eyes wide, and looked at the cat in Oliver's arms. "Luna," she whispered, her voice breaking. Tears filled Mia's eyes as she rushed forward. The reunion was everything Oliver had hoped, and more. The bond they shared had come full circle, reminding him that love and kindness had the power to heal wounds, to bring lost things back, and to create new beginnings. Oliver stood back, watching the cat and Mia, knowing this was the moment that changed everything for all of them. A small act of love had led to something greater, and now, more than ever, he knew that kindness could truly save lives. As the door closed behind them, Oliver walked away, a quiet smile on his face. He had found his way, and so had the cat. Together they had discovered that the greatest gift was not the journey itself, but the transformation that love and second chances could bring.